Our story begins on January 2nd, 2020, on the second day of the new year on a chilly winter day. There is an apartment. Our hero is talking about the boiler in his small apartment is stopped working. When he is standing in front of the boiler, he think, he might have rented a house with a broken boiler. Then on outside the room, someone yelling that, you young uns these days, you need to learn how to save heating. Then he advised them to put on some thick undergarments and stick bubble wrap on the windows. This old man is owner of this apartment. Then our hero thinks that old man, that was his way of letting them know in advance that, the boiler would go out at some point. If he went to him now, to tell that the boiler is broken, he would surely blame him for everything. Then he would tell him to pay for repairs, then say that he would have to raise the rent because he didn't take care of the house. Well, and another nonsense like that. He would like to bury the head for old man in the backyard, but he didn't want to make trouble. For him, who has lived a dreary and difficult life since he was born, a freezing cold shower was more fitting than a hot shower from a working boiler. Then it sneezed, and though, this room sure is a cold, though, perhaps he was brainwashed by the word of that darned old man, because the next thing he knew, he lived his closet-sized apartment to buy some bubble wrap for the windows. Then he opened the window and chilly winds coming through it. Then he think that, it called the butterfly effect, a small incident like his boiler breaking down would change his life completely. Then there is a shopping mart. On same day 9 p.m, our hero asks, where can he find the bubble wrap? The staff lady said, she show him the direction. On the way he thinks, they seriously have everything here. Then he saw a boy's asking his father that, can he get that wrench? His father said, why would you need a monkey wrench? Put that down. That boy was very excited about that things. Then our hero's name is Hwayoon. According to orphanage director, this was the name given to him by his father, who he had never met. His name means peaceful achievement, which he has been living a life that's the absolute opposite. He was abandoned by his parent at birth. The orphanage did nothing more than provide him with a place to sleep and eat. However, it was the place that made him determined to become a stronger. He decided that money would be his means to becoming powerful. That was why he ran around working like crazy, even when he was still in high school. But his poor educational background and lack of money meant that he could only land part-time gigs. If there's one thing he learned from that experience, it was that, even if he sold his insignificant time, he would only earn pennies. The world is a harsh place. Then he watching a weapons section, and hold one and thinks, this is pretty nice and interesting too. Then beside there a lady's staff and a man seeing Yoon holding a machetes giving them the creeps vibe, while Yoon smiled and thought, well, this sure brings back memories, when he realized that his hard labor wasn't even worth enough 10,001 note, even if he slaved away, and that orphans couldn't enlist in the army. He become a mercenary, fighting in countless battles and wars around the world. As a member of Force 1, a transnational machinery corps, Force 1 was full of orphans and those who were rejected by society. In other words, people who had nothing to lose. People like him were given a place to sleep, clothes to wear, and the promise of money until the day they die, and he was thankful for all of that. They team up together, defeating the pirates at sea and beheading the leaders of terrorists on land. Occasionally, he would also participates in international wars to raise his price tag. The staff holding the machete and asked, what will you be using this for? It's usually very practical for a purpose like logging and camping. Would you like me to show you some other machete that are more practical instead? Then Yoon said, it's fine, he'll take this. Then he pointed that bubble wraps that asked him 10 meter to cut. Lady said, sure thing. Then she start cutting the bubble wrap very messy. Yoon thinks, you've got to be kidding him, that blade is so dull and she's making such a mess. He's irritated to see that. Then he said, move over. The lady said, what? Then he hold his machete and swing it and cut it very swiftly. That lady staff is surprised and puzzled, while Yoon noticed something and said, what this is? There is any event going on? Some people talk something that they take a picture with it, that's so realistic. Then a scream sound coming through there. Everyone surprised to see that a goblin jumps over them with a knife, everyone running from there. Then that goblin killed one of a man and sit there and start eating that corpse. Hwayoon with fear on his face thinks, what's going on? That's look just like one those goblin he have seen in games. That goblin is eating corpse meat. And then he turned there and saw Hwayoon's HR feared, and then that goblin jumps over him, but next second Hwayoon swing his machete and beheaded that goblin, and again thought, what the hell is happening? In the mall there are blood all over and screaming sound everywhere. Hwayoon exhausted and disgusted with overwhelming stench of blood on his machete, then someone calling for help, and then Hwayoon turned there where many corpses laying there on the ground and many goblins smiling over their prey. Then there is a lady and a girl shaking with fear, while goblins surrounding them. Then Hwayoon swinging his blade and beheaded one of goblin, and then that lady asked, what's going on? Where are these things coming from? Hwayoon no response to her and thinks, this blade really doesn't cut through things well. He guess he need to find something more useful to deal with the situation. Then sudden many sounds coming through goblin. There are many goblins coming through in way. Lee thinks, what they just keep coming. And then some guys said, fight them. And then many peoples with different weapons killing one by one goblins. One man sitting in a corner and said, dear God, please save him, and tremble in fear. Then Hwayoon said, hey, this isn't a dream, you had better get your act together. And he is holding a chainsaw and giving him and said, if you want to live, get up. Praying is not going to get you anywhere. Right now, he just want to increase the number of people fighting this horde of goblins. Then there are many peoples ready for battle with goblins with Hwayoon. Then there sudden a goblin attacked a man that holding a chainsaw. Then he swing chainsaw, and beheaded him. Hwayoon said, good job to him. That man puzzled, even if one was physically and mentally weak, the human instinct to survive is a great force. Then one man said, hey, everyone. Over there was a gate that manifesting fast. Then Hwayoon said, there's no mistaking it. This must be where those monsters are coming from, they need to get rid of that things. Then another man said, how can we get rid of that? Lee said, he don't know. Then sudden a big hand with sharp nails coming through that portals, again many goblins coming through that portal. In the mall it's turned into battlefield, all over the blood and corpses laying. Hwayoon hiding and watching two goblin eating corpses. He thinks, the situation is only getting worse, the number of goblins swarming out of the rift has not decreased one bit. Moreover, the stamina of the people fighting the goblin is steadily decreasing. At this rate, there's no way anyone would know how to get rid of these dangerous creatures. Also, they still don't have a logical explanation for the appearance of these monsters. The dimensional rift that they are coming from would make even genius scientists gape in awe. Then there's some goblins eating a corpse. Hwayoon start countdown, then beside him that man said, what? Hwayoon said, it's exactly 10 minutes, there are 10 goblins in each wave, and 10 minutes between each wave, 10 goblins every 10 minutes they are. Currently a total of 26 goblin out there. 10 minutes later, there's going to be 10 more. The problem is, even though he understands the situation fully, he can't think of a way to solve it. There are also limitations to the things in this store that can be used as a weapon. That things made of heavy metals like axes, crossbars, chainsaw, and hammer would use a lot of energy. They are all close combat weapon. One mistake, and we had be goblin chow. In fact, many of the people in the hardware store have already died, and the ones giving it their all to fight look completely exhausted. Then he gritted his teeth and thinks, if only he had a gun. Then there is a missile fire sound, and then a blast happen on people's background. Then 4 soldier coming in with all over holding with a gun and said, this is the Capital Defense Command's counter-terrorism response team. They said, you are now in safe hands. Please assist the injured near you and move towards us. The soldier is coming in mall with the tank. They are spreading all over and killing goblins with guns and saving peoples. Now, Hwayoon relax something. Then that man beside him thanked Hwayoon and told his name Kim Boa Chen. Then Hwayoon said, he is tired, just to go on your way. He thought, he is sick and tired of the week. One thing he learned from the participating in battle around the world as a mercenary, is that the weak are always a heavy burden. He don't want to carry that around when the situation isn't over yet. Furthermore, now that there are soldier with gun around, he have even less of a need for a man like him. Then he approached towards soldier while holding the chainsaw. While see a soldier he sigh and thinks, unstable breathing, unstable stance, and they're an absolute mess. Goblins are dodging their bullets. Hwayoon gritted his teeth and said to a soldier that hand over the gun. He's Hwayoon from Force 1. Hand that gun over, the soldier said. Can you repeat that? Then Hwayoon snatched the gun. Then one of the soldiers scolding to that soldier that, you useless, you let your gun get stolen? What are you doing? Another soldier said, are you kidding me? Arrest him. Then Hwayoon hold the gun and start shooting and killed all goblins. All the soldiers are surprised and shocked to see that. One of them said, what did he just see? Another one said that he told he is from Force 1. You mean the most ruthless mercenary company in the world? Hwayoon still firing on and killing goblins, and saving people from it. Then soldier evacuating all the citizens from there while Hwayoon keep killing goblins. Then a screen appear that says, game restarting. Hwayoon was shocked and puzzled. Then he hold his head and thinks, since stepping into the hardware store, inconceivable things have happened one after another, but it's this line of test in front of him, that's making his head hurt. He thinks that restarting? He don't know what on earth is so-called game is, but the fact that it says, restarting rather than starting is making his head even more of mess. He have never seen such hideous monster or something like that dimensional rift before, and it isn't just him, no one in this hardware store have seen such a scene before. Then a hand appeared from that portal. Hwayoon still thinking, it would probably be foolish to try to understand the situation. After all, everything that happens in stepping into this hardware store was beyond human common sense. Then there's sound coming from portal. Hwayoon turned there and saw a big orc roaring from there, everyone running from there. The soldier are panicked and firing all over there, the bullet hitting the orc but nothing hurt him. Hwayoon also panicked and firing at him, everyone firing on him, but the bullet can't penetrated that orc. Then someone with axe jumps over and cut the orc leg, and said, an orc's lower body is its weakness, you can take them down easily if you can make them lose their balance. Soldier said, who's that guy? Hwayoon thinks, that man was clearly a weakling. Less than an hour ago, he was huddled in a corner, trembling before a small goblin, but that man who had just easily defeated that orc seemed to know everything. Then he cut the orc's head and standing on its dead body. Hwayoon still thinking, the way he nonchalantly took down the orc certainly wasn't clumsy at all. After that then many orcs coming through the rift gate, the roar coming from there, they all turned that direction, while Hwayoon surprised to see that kid. He's running with his monkey wrench. It was the kid that previous boy, a couple hours ago. Even with the knowledge of what the orc's weaknesses is, still reckless to fight and a orc with just that information, especially for a young boy with that is small body. However, that little boy just casually slaughtering orcs as if it isn't his first time doing so. Hwayoon again surprised to that female staff of Mart, she's holding a chain to fight. Hwayoon thought, so it isn't just the kid, that employee too, who cut the bubble wrap is displaying similar behavior. She's currently taking down orcs to left and right without the slightest trace of emotion in her eyes. The man named Kimbo, who is currently slashing at orc body with an axe, is the same person who was praying on his knee as he was being attacked by a monster. Also, the little kid, that female employee who had is spoken to him a warm and kind tone. Just what on earth is going on? Then a soldier told to hold fire. Hwayoon thinks, what is the difference between the people who suddenly changed and fought the orca and those who didn't? What caused their sudden changes? Then a screen window appears in front of Hwayoon that said, there is no tutorial in this game, however, you may ask 3 questions about the game. Then Hwayoon think, when he was mercenary he had a nickname. It was given to him when he entered the world's most ruthless mercenary company and roamed the battlefield, fearless one who does not fear anything. It is a nickname given by the foreigner in his team. as he always kept his cool and exercised calm judgment regardless of the situation. Thanks to these traits, he was able to survive battlefield full of bullets and debris. He once again realized that it would be foolish to try to understand this entire situation, and he said, "This isn't even funny anymore," Lee Yoon thinks, as everything that he have witnessed is real. So, what the hell is all this? This is his first question. The system said, "It's the end of the world, and this is a system that has been designed to test human beings. It's a combination of the video games you humans seem to like so much," Lee Yoon said. "Bullshit. Stop this crap at once," Lee Yoon thinks. Its mechanical voice sound like a female. This is annoying. He can just bash his way through things like goblin and monsters, but that won't work with this. It doesn't have a physical body and only communicates through text and voice, the system said. He will add to answer to your first question, if the status window will be open to you from this moment on. Status window unlocked, the system said. There are humans who have been selected as player all over the world. You are currently in Korea. Please call out the status window, and then Lee Yoon call out status window. Then Lee Yoon's status window appears up here, with stamina 1, strength 1, agility 1, concentration 1, mana 1, bonus point 3, achievement and skills none. Then he smiles nervously and thinks, the situation is starting to get interesting. The absurd system message about video games being incorporated into this world is actually true, the system said. This is proof that you have become a player of this game. Gates have appeared all around the globe. These gates are connected to dungeons, where monsters, and then Lee Yoon interrupted him and said, so, he should train himself hard and defeat the monsters, right? So as not to let mankind perish? The system says, you catch on quick, Lee Yoon said. More importantly, that kid, the employee and the guy is glasses, why did they certainly become like that? The system said, he do not know either, they might be natural born player, Lee Yoon said, as if, then sudden system is error, Lee Yoon said, what's wrong with it? The system said, Lee Yoon the only player who has not regressed, to maintain the balance of the game, the player shall receive a special skill. System is searching for special skill, while Lee Yoon puzzled and said, the only one who didn't regressed? Everyone regressed except him. To regress is to return from the future to past. It is a word that was familiar to him because he's shouted thousands of times on the battlefield about wanting to return. Now everything is slowly starting to make sense, from the meaning of the words game restarting to the way those ordinary people slaughtered the orcs so easily. Then Lee Yoon gritted his teeth and angry about that and said, does this even make sense? Regression. It was at this moment that he realized everyone had regressed except him. He said, he is going to ask another question, while system still searching for special skill. Then a lady tapped him and said, hey, you. What are you doing? Go over there and help them fight? You were fighting pretty well, just now. Then Lee Yoon glared her and said, you didn't even dare to make a peep when the monsters were in front of you, just be quiet. That lady shocked. Lee Yoon asked her, and did you regress too? That woman said, what's regress? Then Lee Yoon said, it's mean you came back to the past from the future. That lady said, what are you talking about? Seriously? Lee Yoon thanks to her, he have learned one more things. Now those who became player have regressed, as if trying to prove that they are from the future. The player are talking down the orcs by only focusing on attacking their weak spots. He is the only one who doesn't know the future, Lee Yoon thought. This is a freaking headache. He shouldn't rush into making any judgment. Then a man said, may he introduce himself again? He said, you are the reason he was able to become a player. He has been searching for you his entire life, and even went from dungeons to dungeons all over Korea. He needed to meet you, while Lee Yoon asked, what? That man said, this day was the turning point of his entire life. He continued and said, if you didn't handed me a chainsaw, then he was loser from the rest of his life. Lee Yoon thinks, clearly, these are the words of someone who has been to the future. That man said, The only reason he was able to achieve some success as a player is that he had you as a role model, Mr. Lee Hwayoon. Hwayoon said, "Do you know me well?" That man said, "There isn't a single player in Korea who doesn't know you. You are the player who entered the final dungeon." Hwayoon surprise and thinks, as he is slowly starting to get a grasp of the situation, here come another term that he is hearing for the first time in his life. Then two player also come there and they all seeing Hwayoon like a star. Everyone said, "It's an honor to meet the hero who went into final dungeon." That boy with monkey wrench said that, "The way you looked as you enter the final dungeon, flipping your middle finger at countless reporter, he will never forget it till the day he die." These people are one who were fighting the orcs, in other words, they are player, which also means that they have all regressed. The man said, "If you don't mind, he would like to hear about what happened in the final dungeon." Hwayoon thinks about, these people are all talking about the place called the final dungeon. Then system screen appear and said, "A special skill search completed. Please check the status window and the special skill is Butterfly Effect level 1, to the only one who did not regress, bonus point will be awarded for action of yours that change the future." Then Hwayoon surprise and thinks, what? He know exactly what the butterfly effect means. The flutter of a butterfly's wings can ultimately cause a typhoon halfway around the world. Bonus point will be awarded for the action of your that change the future. Hwayoon thinks about bonus points. Then there is a orc's roar sound coming. Everyone turn there and see a horde of orc monster coming through the portals. Everyone being run there with their weapons. Hwayoon fire the gun and thinks, of all times, here come more orcs. Apart from the appearance of the status window, one of the other changes after becoming a player is that he can see the monster's name and level above its head. Then two bullets hit that orc both eyes. The orc scream and angry red eyes glare them. Then all orc jump over player to attack while player also ready to attack. Hwayoon thinks, the bullet are only leaving faint scorch mark. Firearm cannot pierce through the tough skin of an orc. The reason those primitive close combat weapon work against the orcs when gun don't because the people wielding them are regressors. The power regression really is amazing. He threw the gun and pick up the chainsaw, but then he saw an axe over there. Then he pick up the axe. The system message appeared, special skill butterfly effect activated. You have changed the future. Bonus point ++1. Hwayoon said, he have changed the future? Then he hold another tool machine. Then again same message appear and bonus point +1 has achieved. Then sudden an orc coming towards him from background. Lee noticed and he throw the axe that hit the joint of orcs. He fell down and Lee run over there. He again hold the axe and he's going to cut down him into two. Then he beheaded that orc, and that butterfly effect bonus is still coming. Then Hwayoon said, Kimbo, was he using an axe in this situation last time? Kimbo said, from what he remembered, you used a chainsaw. Hwayoon understand now that if he do something different from what happened in the past, that will be akin to changing the future. He is still not completely sure, but it makes sense. What he should do now is the opposite of what he did in his previous life. Kimbo said, in the past, you killed 3 or by yourself. Lee said, he killed 3 of them by himself? How? Then Kimbo pointed toward thinner can. It's a chemical that can make hardened paint usable again. It is highly flammable. Hwayoon said, this sure is interesting, using thinner to burn the orc to death. Then he go over there and though, he's having the same idea as he in the past, this means that if he kill all the orcs with something other than thinner, he would be doing something different. Alternatively, he can use thinner to kill all them, or just not kill any at all. Then he pick up one of the thinners can, and then bonus point added. Having already used up a lot of energy, the player agreed to his plan. After incapacitating the orcs by either destroying their Achilles tendon or knee joint, he went around and doused thinner on the fallen orcs. Then he set them on fire and bonus point is coming through that continuous, and he level up. Now, he have really got it and he do the opposite of what he do in the past, he will be given bonus points. Hwayoon thinks. Although it still doesn't know what this bonus point are for, even without allocating bonus point to his stats, he can still chop up the orc's head easily, and then system screen appears that a brave rookie achievement complete. This achievement is awarded to player who complete a hunt without using any bonus point. Hwayoon found a skill armor level 1. Strengthens and hardens the player's body to toughness of the armor is proportional to the player's strength. Then all over Hwayoon body a green light engulfing him, and then his hand turned into a black metal type armor. Lee said, "What this?" While two people, a man and a woman is staring him from behind with surprise, that man grit his teeth and said, he thought that he would be mine this time. That woman also disappointed and says, when did he even get that skill? Hwayoon said, what's with those faces? Is it a problem that he got this skill? They both feared. Then that lady said, of course it is, you devoured all of Korea with that overpowered skill. That man said, he can't believe he just missed the chance of getting that insane skill. Then Hwayoon thinks, he must have gotten this skill in the past as well. It should be the case as the butterfly effect skill was not activated. The future only changes if he do something new, but the skill wasn't activated when he got the brave rookie and the armor skill. Then again the portal is violent. Hwayoon step ahead while Kimbo seeing with bright eyes. They all stand in front of the portal and a system message appear. Goblin and Orc Dungeon. Goblins 11, Orcs 8, maximum number of players 4, dungeon difficulty, D-. Hwayoon thinks, this game was definitely first created with the annihilation on the human race in mind. There is a fixed number of monsters in each dungeon, and after a certain period of time, the monster in the dungeon would come out of the dungeon gate and destroy everything. These monster-filled dungeons are connected to Earth via gates, and there is only one way to destroy a gate. Hwayoon said, we have to kill all the monsters as quickly as possible. He thinks that dungeon's difficulty is important, as it determines the rarity of the skills and items that can be dropped. Lee said, difficulty D means that it's a dungeon with no drops above rare grade. Hwayoon thinks, he has reason to enter into dungeon. He want to do an experiment on the stats he has gained as a player and newly acquired skill, armor. He need power that he can immediately see. After all, strength is actually power, and also, these are the bonus points he got from butterfly effects. Apply them all to strength. Now his strength is reached 16. Hwayoon thinks, he already killed many goblin and know the weakness of the orc, so he need to be prepared for unknown danger. That is why he chooses this place as his first hunting ground, and then he step ahead to enter the dungeon. Everyone is watching him and follow him. Kimbo thinks, perhaps Hwayoon got something from here in his previous life. Then they enter into the dungeon. They were walking while a goblin is sneaking around them. Then two goblin jumps over them while they notice and saw them. Hwayoon raises his hand to block it while goblin is biting him. Then Lee's armor is activated. The goblin shocked to see that he can't chew. Hwayoon raise his another hand and grab his head and crushed the head of goblin, and another bonus point gained. Hwayoon thinks, it hasn't been 5 hours since the game began, and his strength is at 16. That lady shocked to see and said, that ridiculous, and the beside that man said, damn it. He crushed the goblin's head with just one hand. Then Kimbo came and asked, just how? While Hwayoon puzzled, Kimbo said, the skill, armor, is the only one of its kind in the world. It's probably because of this is skill that you were considered the strongest player in the Korea in your previous life. Hwayoon said, so what? Kimbo with dark face said, he will be taking it, and then he snatched the chainsaw from one of the guys and run towards Hwayoon. Hwayoon shocked and surprised, that man hit him with chainsaw in his chest, but armor is activated. There is a fire flashing from there. He can't penetrate it. Hwayoon laughed and thinks, even if he didn't regress, this isn't right. Absolutely not. Then he raised his hand and said, now, it's his turn. He grabbed the chainsaw and break it and throw it away, and hold Kimbo's neck with hand. Kimbo with shaking voice said, how can you be so strong? Hwayoon said in rage, what a shame, and thought, at the end of greed lies destruction. He learned that myself on the battlefield and have a wound to remind him about it. These player at the same time awakened. They must have thought that they would be able to get the skill he had in his previous life. While holding Kimbo with neck, Hwayoon said to two of them, do you guys want to try too? Fuck off. And then crack sound appeared. He killed Kimbo, Lee Yoon thinks, on the battlefield. What he received in return for releasing his enemy was not gratitude but more bullets. That's how it always was, he said. The law is meaningless now that the game has started, don't you agree? Lee thinks, therefore, he's well aware that he should never let emotion get in the way when dealing with an enemy who has threatened his life even once. Lee Yoon said to them that get lost if you don't want to die. Lee Yoon thinks, this is an extremely cruel game. An inventory window would appear above the corpse of a dead player, so other can help themselves to deceased item. Then Lee clicked something and said, how convenient, and window screen appear that necklace of the goblin champion. Strength +3, agility +3, Lee Yoon wear it and said, you have a new owner. He gained 3 bonus points when he leveled up by 1 level, so he keeping the necklace is equivalent to the level up by 2 levels. Even though this effect will become increasingly insignificant as his level increases, it is a very good item in the early stages. Then that man sit near Kimbo corpse and said, why are you wearing that? It looks so tacky. Then an orc coming toward him, Lee Yoon grab the chainsaw and insert the chainsaw in orc's mouth and tear him upward. He said, he can't really feel the difference, even though his strength is 15, a 3+ boost is not a small at all. However, he can't really feel the effect of the item. The system screen said, all the monster killed, the dungeon will be destroyed, escape time 3 minutes, then dungeon is rustling backward, there goblins and orcs corpses laying on ground while Lee Yoon standing there and thinks, the only way to destroy a gate is to enter it and kill all the monster in the dungeon. This was what he meant when he said that the law is meaningless now. There are no information about what happened to those who do not make it out of the gate before it disappeared. After all, none of the player who were very still inside. It was as if the dungeon is that disappeared were aiding and abetting murder between the players, once a gate disappeared. There's no way to know who killed whom and who died in the dungeon. That was why the dungeon gave player time to escape before they were destroyed. As Lee approaching to gate that previous boy stand there in front of him, Lee Yoon said, why, do you want to die in here, too? That boy said, no, he want to be with you. Then Lee said, you can't, let's step through that gate. That boy still persisted and with shaking voice said, let him come with him. Lee Yoon grabbed him both hands and said, cut it out. Then Lee Yoon's status window appears and adding the bonus point to his strength. That makes strength 25, he thinks, with the boost from the necklace of the goblin champion. His strength is at 28, his strength stat is higher than a level 9 players who put all the stats into strength. That boy still stand there with bowing his head. Lee told him to cut it out. That boy with crying face said, we have regressed to 10 years in the past. Even after 10 years from now, his life would still be the same. He want to be a hero at least once in his life too. That's why he is asking you, Lee Yoon. It's his wish to become the right-hand man of a hero. Lee smiled and said, you are an interesting one, kid. This kid's name is Kim Minsu. Lee Yoon thinks, the only thing that interests about him is that he has regressed from 10 years in the future. In other words, he knows the future of the next 10 years, Minsu said. He want to change this insignificant life of his. He'll make sure not to bring the disgrace to the name of Lee Yoon. Lee Yoon thinks, this is a minor player who has been killing monster and destroying the dungeon for 10 years. He has now decided that life as a sidekick of Korea's hero would be better. The way he see it, Minsu has made a very wise decision. He has a good head on his shoulder. Then they both come out. F dungeon, Lee Yoon said. Your final goal isn't to be someone else's sidekick, is it? While laughing, Minsu said, it's to be a second in command. You are number 1, boss. You are the one in charge, Lee Yoon said. He'll need to know if you can be useful, then. Lee said, 10 people who will be involved with him in the future, names, faces, and levels, friends or enemies, it doesn't matter, get me their information, Minsu said. Understood, while Lee Yoon said, pull any shit and you are dead, call him when you are done. Then they both exchange their phone numbers. Minsu is running happily from there. Lee Yoon said, he is an interesting one, all right. It has been 3 days since the regression of the player all over the world. At first the players try to hide the fact that they have regressed from the future. There are many reasons for that. For one, that they do not want to be regarded as lunatics. Even though monsters that are trying to destroy the world have appeared on Earth, time travel was still a little too much for people to come to terms with. Also, the regressors wanted to live a life that was different from their previous lives. As such, they were unwilling to share the information they had about the future with others. They all thought regression was their golden opportunity to turn their lives around, like how the protagonist of the novel would. However, the fact that every single player had regressed made becoming the protagonist very difficult. Thanks to that, both the media and online platform are bombarded with stories about the game. Hwayoon watching news, and with that bonus point added to his stats, the anchor said hello. He is Young Young. A cataclysm has occurred, the world has turned into a game, and all the player have regressed. He's here today to talk about the matter. The director of the Asia Pacific branch of the World Player Association, Anchor, said many people are in the state of confusion right now. In particular, those who do not awaken as player in the first place are having a hard time understanding the phenomenon. Could you please break it down for us? That director said. Yes, to the regular people who are not player, this is actually good news. The fact that the player who protected us from monster have regressed from the futures means that we can become stronger even faster, under the protection of player who had become stronger. There is nothing to be concerned about. We just have to watch out for player who might make financial demands in exchange for information about the future, but otherwise there are no major issues. In other words, this is a good thing for mankind as a player can become a stronger. But why is this happening though? And how did the player regress? Did something happening inside the final dungeon? Then debate is still going on, and that host said, many people are asking if the player has regressed because something had happened in final dungeon to a certain extent. This is a reasonable question, Hwayoon said. So, 10 years later, the final dungeon appeared, and 3 hours after 21 people entered it, all the player regressed. Hwayoon said arrogantly, the strongest player, huh? Hwayoon saw outside the window while thinking, to their conversation. Thanks to them, he finally figured it out. The reason why the player is hardware is store called him by that child title hero. Then bonus point gained. Lee thinks, oh, that must be because at the bubble wrap of his window, he guess he didn't even tape bubble wrap to his window for the winter in his past life. Then every action is taking is giving me a bonus point, but perhaps he wasn't home at this time in his past life. He got a bonus point for drinking water, and another one for sitting on the couch. If he want to be dramatic, he's gaining bonus points so quickly, he can't even catch his breath, and bonus point reached 37. Just looking at the bonus points he have accumulated put him into a good mood. He is curious as to how he was able to become Korea's strongest player and enter the final dungeon when he didn't have this totally overpowered butterfly effect skill in his previous life. And the fundamental emotion behind him wanting to know is not curiosity, it's ambition. He have learned as a child, that a weak had to surrender to strong. In other words, he had personally experienced that, there are reason why he must become strong, but now, the title of the Absolute One has actually been created in this world. Then there is a countdown going on TV, and the host on the TV said, these are the statue of the player, Lee Hwayoon, Park Moon Sung, and Choi Chul Sung, so they are the one who entered the final dungeon as Korea's representative. Everyone were excited and crowded while Hwayoon socked and turned into a stone and said, what? That's him, it's one statue of his. He hold the TV and thinks, this statue has been made in just 3 days after the regression of the player. This is making him realize that he really was an incredible player in his previous life. Among the mercenary, he had one with the highest fees, but that didn't change anything. He was just another consumable item of the battlefield. It didn't bother him because he was only there for the money, but right now, he can see himself being idolized. That host on the TV said, the fact that all the other player request after the regression representative of the each country entered the final dungeon suggests that the something must have happening inside, shouldn't be here from the 3 Korean player, about what happening in there. They were there so they should know, right? Hwayoon said, he would like to know too. All three of them have gone into hiding. The host said, no wait, are you saying that the people who should be treated as hero has disappeared? That debate is going on that. Yes, there are the people who went into the final dungeon and the end of this game. In other world, they are the strongest pair in Korea. When they enter the final dungeon, they were basically fully equipped with unique item and skill. This also means that, now, they regress to the present, and they are the only one who know that location of the unique and legendary great item and skill. The host said, so you are saying that they are going into hiding for their own protection? The other man said, that's right. The problem is that the other player also wants item and skill for themselves. They are all overpowered item and skills, after all. So, host said, he hear that there are new regulation from the World Player Association, right? The director replied, yes, the player who entered the final dungeon in their previous life will be pardoned for any act of crime committed. The host said, what? How can there be such a regulation? Director said, player are required to abide by the highest level law enacted by the constitution in their representative country. This regulation was enacted by the World Player Association. Then Hwayoon turned off the TV and said, very well, and thanks. There are two facts. First, there are many people after him. Second, it's legal for him to beat them to a pulp. Then he wearing his cloth while his every action is a bonus point. He's running on the road is a bonus point. He thinks, no matter how much he think about it, he wouldn't have gone to Moon Square in his previous life, since going to Moon Square is something he did not do in his past life. He has changing the future just by walking there, as if to prove it. The system notification keep popping up with every step he take, then status window appears and he apply his bonus point to agility and his agility is 52 plus 3, then he start running fast and thinks, general common sense player abide by when applying bonus points. Such as how strength is the best stat to invest in early in the game, or how player who use mana consumer skills should quickly increase their mana, that because the speed at which he earned bonus point is completely different from that of a normal player. Of course, it wasn't right to apply the notion of general standard of him in the first place. Then he jumps over wall and said, it's that way, and he jumps over a building to building and land on a ground. There is a crowded and Hwayoon in the crowd, walking there, and come to his statue and said, this is nuts, he can't believe this. If he really was that big deal to be chosen to go into the final dungeon like they said on TV, he thought everyone would regularly recognize him. That's why he come prepared. He do not want to attract unnecessary attention, as what he need now is information about his future. The player that have regressed can't hide their ambition from him. They are all aiming for him, as they believe that he have a lot of information. Of course, he don't have any because he didn't regress. These player don't know that, though, and are all under a huge illusion. They don't know that he had a new power he didn't have in his past life, like Kimbo who died in the first dungeon. In any case, it is clear that he is now the target of the player who are blinded by ambition and greed. Thinking about those bastard, the player in the square were all armed. They are probably holding weapon they can just store in their inventory to gain attention. Having gained the title of heroes who will save Earth from the monster, the player are now famous. If he showed his face to those guys, this place already would erupt in chaos. He is looking for a different type of player. When he saw the broadcast of this place on TV, he saw a cult-like scene of people bowing and praying in front of these three statues. Those people were treating him like a deity. They must be doing this because they know something about him. Even if the stories have been beautified or exacerbated, they are why he came here. But unlike what he saw on TV, they are nowhere to be found. Then Poison King's statue Choi Shul sung, Sword Emperor Park Moon sung, and then he saw himself Shadow of Death Lee Hwayoon. He shake his head and said, Shadow of Death? Then sudden a player beheaded Hwayoon's statue head, and again another bonus point appears. That player landed in front of him and placed his weapon into inventory. They both contact eye to eye. They both face to face stand beside Li Yun's statue's head rolling there, then that man start running from there. Li Yun think, now that his agility stat over 50, he can easily catch him, and he stat chasing that man. Then on a building behind Li Yun catches him with his neck. Li Yun lift him with grabbing his neck. Li asked, do you know him? While that man shaking in fear, Li Yun smirked and said, so you do know him, you were running off too. Then that man opened his inventory and tried to bring weapon, but Li Yun grabbed him and said, nice try. Then Li Yun snatched that man's weapon and thanks him for that. Then he asked him, what's your affiliation? That man didn't reply. Then Li Yun squeezed his neck and said, didn't you see that interview? The one with director of the World Player Association, didn't you hear what he said? He'll kill you. Try to pull some shit on him. That man said, let go of him, you bastard, while laughing. Then Li Yun said in enraged, that look like you're 10 seconds away from dying, tell me name and affiliation. That man shaking voice said his name Kim Changbi from General Guild. Then he talk about Project Li Hwayoon. Li think, according to him, Project Li Yun is the General Guild's plan to collect all the skill and items he acquired in his previous life. Then Li asked, what's the first one? If you don't want to die, tell him everything. That man said, it's stealth, don't kill him. 3 days later, at the gate to the Leakin dungeon, Li said, go on. That man said, the Leakin dungeon, where you got the rare skill stealth, it will open in 3 days. Li asked, how did you guys know all of that? That man said, he doesn't know how they got the information, but it's all true, you know it too. Then Li asked, how are you guys planning to steal the skills he had? That man said, after 3 days 100 players stand by there because you must go there for your skill. Li Yun thinks, 100 player who regress from the future, this is not going to be easy. While bonus points continue coming, a moment later, Kim Minsu arrived. Minsu saw that man with surprise and said to Li Yun that, boss, this punk is so full of shit, can he just kill him? Li said, let him see how great your information is, he'll decide after hear it. Minsu said, same information about Li Yun's stealth skill. Li said, none of you is lying. He thinks, Kim Shanbi and Minsu both have information about same thing. Kim panicky said it all happening tomorrow, that when the Leakin dungeon will be open. Li asked, what's the meaning of this? Kim said, Minsu is lying. Minsu said, what? Are you crazy? Then Li Yun approached there and raised his armor hand and grabbed them with neck and lift in air and said, prove yourself, one at a time, prove that you're telling the truth. Then Minsu put his hand in his pocket, he bring out phone, and show Li Yun an article that the Leakin appears on January 7th, that's tomorrow. Then Minsu scrolling article and said, the Leakin dungeon appeared in the early days of game, the Leakin's nature of difficult for new player to defeat, their attack speed is way beyond that of the goblins and orcs, on top of that, they also move in packs, because of that no one could defeat them. As a result, the Leakin inside poured out the gate. So, the Leakin dungeon is infamous among player, as the Leakins completely destroy the city. Li Yun said, so, everyone knows where that dungeon is located, right? Dungeon and gates were not a matter for concern for those who did not become player. At the beginning of the game, they did attract a lot of attention, but over time, interest in them faded. That's because every time a gate opened they would either receive a text message to evacuate the area, or soldiers would turn up to barricade the whole area. When Leakin dungeon's monster destroy the surrounding city, everyone is hoping for a strong player to appear as soon as possible to take care of the Leakin. That is why even the general public knows about the location of the gate. Then Minsu says to Li Yun that the one who destroyed the Leakin dungeon in the past was you, boss. Li Yun said to Kim, so, is he right? Then Li said, he'll ask you one question. Kim Shanbi, with serious tone Li asked, who gave you the order to smash his statue with that mace? While Kim also angrily said, you bastard. And open his inventory, but before he pull out something Li Yun snap his fist and break his neck and kill him and gained a bonus point. Then he said, he guess he didn't kill him in his previous life, Li Yun said to Minsu that he need information about the dungeon. Minsu said, "Boss, why you need information, shouldn't you know it best?" Then Li Yun said, "That's because he didn't regress, don't ask anymore." Then Minsu said, "There is more important than information is that, Leakins are level 5 monsters, you can't enter the dungeon if you below level 5, Li Yun surprised and gritted his teeth and said, "He need to be level 5, levels are meaningless when it comes to him, though." Then he opened his status window said, he have a total of 80 stats point in effect, including the 162 bonus point that's 242, 3 bonus point are rewarded from everyone 1 level gained and 247 divided by 3 by around 80, so his stats are currently similar to that of a level 80 players. Minsu said, "Even if it's you, boss, defeating the Leakins will be difficult at your current level, beside, you have the other players to deal with, too." Li Yun said, "His level's the issue?" He thinks, even with his highest stats, he won't be able to enter the dungeon because his actual level is lower than the Leakins. Li Yun said to Minsu, "Take him to a place where he can level up." Right now, Minsu said, "Currently, only the Goblin and Orc gate is active, the gates with the new monster will only gradually open over time, like the Leakin and gate that's opening tomorrow. It's only been 4 days since we started playing the game, after all." Li Yun asked, "Goblin and Orcs?" Minsu said, "Yes, you had usually ignore them, monster like Orc and Goblins." Li Yun said, "They are cuties." Then Li Yun applied bonus point to his strength. Strength reached 187 plus 3. Li Yun asked to Minsu that, "Did any break through his armor before in his previous life?" Minsu said, "He don't know that either, as he weren't always together. One thing he can tell you is that the nickname of your statue Shadow of Death was given because of your armor skill." Li said, "That nickname's really childish." Then they enter Goblin Dungeon. While they talking about 2 goblin appear in front of them. Li Yun think by increasing his strength his physical strength, but also greatly increased the toughness of armor, and that's not all but also agility. And then Li Yun jumped from there to over 2 goblins, and killed one of the goblin, and with that bonus point gained, then he kills second and thought, with his strength and agility stat, these guys don't stand a chance. Then he asked to Minsu that he saw it on a internet, but what exactly is a skill stone? He heard that if you swallowed that stone or something, you will get a skill. Minsu puzzled about and thinks, boss doesn't even know a concept that even non-player knew. Did he really not regress like the rest of us? Minsu thinks, he's too strong to not have regressed though, while Li killing goblin, and said, "Just answer the damn question." Minsu said in fear that a skill stone is laterally a stone that has a skill in it. It's located near the monster's heart. Skill stone are the size of about a half a human fist. The color of the skill stone's subtle glow indicate the skill's class. White is common, purple is rare, yellow is unique, and red is legendary. He said, stealth, which is assumed to be in the Leakin dungeon, is a rare class skill. Its skill stone will have a purple glow. Li Yun said, what do the different classes signify? Minsu said, there are various things, but basically, the different classes indicate how many of its kind there are on Earth. For skill that are rare class and below, they are more than one of each. For example, there are a few of the rare classes skill stone around the world, so even if you go the one in the Leakin dungeon, there would be other players elsewhere in the world who have it too. Does this mean there's only one of each unique and legendary class skill? Minsu happily said, yes. In addition, skill have levels too. The higher the level, the more powerful it is. There may be different effects gained too. Then Li asked, what about a special skill? Then Minsu puzzled about that question and said, special skill? What are those? Li Yun said, you don't know what our special skills are? Minsu don't have any idea about special skill. Then Li Yun read carefully butterfly effect skill that the only one who did not regress, bonus point will be awarded for action of your that change of the future. Then Li Yun understand and said, never mind. Now, both of them sneak in location of Leakin dungeon in an ally. Li Yun now the level 5, Minsu said, "So, what's the plan?" Li Yun said he'll take care of things himself, go over there and see what they up to, let him know if there's anything peculiar. Minsu with bright eyes, with determined to help him go there, while Li Yun thinks, he sure is brimming with loyalty, this is where the Leaken Gate is going to appear. Looking at this, he guessed Kim Chang-bi wasn't lying entirely. There are 100 player from General Guild waiting for him. His first step is to enter the gate immediately. The moment it appears, only a fixed number of player are allowed to enter, and the number is different for each one. According to Minsu, a maximum of 5 player can enter the Leaken dungeon. He need to get in before the 5 player limit is max out. If he can't even get in, those people will kill the Leakens and take the skill stone for themselves. 7 more minutes he has to wait. Then in the crowd a man on the top shouting that this is the place where Li Yun obtained a rear class skill. In his previous life, he said, the gate will appear in 5 more minutes. Today is the day our General Guild take the stage. We will use Li Yun's skill as our stepping stone to leave even bigger and more impactful marks on history than he did. Crowd are cheering him, let's go, it's all ours now. Alright, till now, Li Yun has yet to appear. Do not let your guard down, for we don't know when he will show up. While Li Yun thinks, he is already right here, then system window appears that the gate appearing time is 30-second, level 5 dungeon, Leaken 25, maximum number of player 5, danger difficulty B. Then everyone is count down the number and then dungeon open in front of everyone and they said, let's go for our new history. They all cheered and talking about themselves, to don't die there, everyone laughing and cheering to take care. Then sudden they turn and saw, Li Yun is running very fast toward dungeon. They all said, attack him, while another says, contract the HQ. Li Yun thinks, it's been 5 days since the player regressed and at this point, there shouldn't be anyone on the planet with an agility of more than 50, but he has smashed that common sense to the ground, and he run very fast that they even can't react, and they said, why is he so fast? Is the level of agility even possible? Li Yun entering the dungeon, everyone is running into dungeon to chase him and the maximum player enter limit met. Then Minsu shocked and surprised said, wow, that's... Then into dungeon, there is a bright moon over there. Then one man shouted, Li Yun. Everyone is saw him while slight fear on their face. Li Yun thinks, the fact that all of them have regressed is convenient for him, because that means they all know who he is, and what is like without him having to say anything. Then Li Yun said, that's right, it's me. Then everyone ready to attack and open their inventory and bring out their weapons. The whip of Goblin Chief, its effect is weak power, but allow the wielder to hold dominion over the goblin, attack +1. They all bind the Li Yun while armor is activated. Both the arm and his neck is bind by those whip and then a plus bonus is gained also. They all three holding him while one man open his inventory and bring out a net type weapon. Li Yun thinks, they must have determined earlier that they would be no match for him right now, and decide to tie him up too since their attacks won't work. Then Li smile and thinks, looking at how they have planned all of this, everyone is working hard. After some times we see Li Yun capture them with their whip and net, and said, it was a good attempt, your plan failed, though. Then a Leaken coming from behind with growling. Li Yun stand up and saw, there are many Leakens coming in group. He said, why are they all so angry? Is it a trait of theirs? Then Li Yun scared General Guild member and said to them, you want to be Wolf Chow? Then they all panic in feared and ask for mercy. They said, they were just doing as they were told. Then Li Yun asked, by whom? While Leakens were growling and jumps over Li Yun, then captured men said, Li Yun trapped. The Leakens got him and one of the man hopeless and said, he guessed this is how they were going to die. While all Leaken jumps and gather around and attack together, Li Yun punched all of them at once, and many bonus point gained and he already activated his armor skill. The General Guild peoples are shocked and one of them said, what? How's that possible? After that Li Yun said, it's some things he learned in the past, seem like it applies to these guys too, like wolves, Dogs have protruding muzzles that include their nose and mouth. The forms of the two animals are very similar. When you grab the muzzle of dog and hold its mouth shut, it will deem you to be stronger than it is. That he learned in a mission to track down drug peddler after getting bitten by a detection dog. He grabbed its muzzle with one hand and stared right into its eyes. That dog has never bitten him again since then. He spared the dog back then, but what he is dealing with here are monsters. Then a Leakin jumps over him with growling. Then suddenly Yoon grabbed the wolf's muzzles and thinks he has to put more strength in his grip, and crush their muzzle to smithereens, and blood spilled all over. Captured men shocked and surprised to see Lee Yoon's strength. Lee Yoon punching and crushing Leakin's muzzles one by one. Seeing all this, General Guild member thinks, unlike goblins and orcs, Leakins have strong bones. Having regressed, they know difference in physical ability between a level 2 orc and a level 5 Leakin. His power is way beyond our imagination, and there are many Leakins laying on his feet. General Guild member said, "Why aren't you killing them all?" Lee Yoon said, "He don't want this gate to disappear yet. When all the monster die, the dungeon that appear on Earth will also disappear. He intend to escape this dungeon after finding the Leakin with the skill stone. After all, there are all those player from the General Guild waiting outside for him. To avoid that commotion, he won't kill all the Leakins so he can just slip out the gate quietly." Then many Leakins jumps over Lee Yoon with angry. Lee Yoon said, "This won't to be enough," and with instant he faded in thin air from there, and fast move he breaks legs and muzzles of all the Leakins, then approaching toward captured man and said, "It's your turn now." Lee Yoon thinks, to fight this destruction, a game system was incorporated into Earth. The only way to stop the apocalypse was to kill all the monster inside the dungeons. Apart from a few fanatics, no one believe in religious anymore. There's no way that God or Buddha would send monster that only appeared in game on Earth. And when everyone was still in the state of confusion, the ones that capture their heart were the player guild, fans, and believers began to put their faith in them. With that, these guild continue to expand and become stronger. They began to fight to occupy the dungeon. Monster byproduct be used as material and renewable energy, and even made into weapon that player could use in dungeon. Also, the skill stones from the dungeons could be traded for huge amount of money among the player. In other word, occupying a dungeon was something that could generate huge profit. Not only was it excellent from a business standpoint, but eliminating these gates that cause enormous damage to Earth made them hero to the public as well. A guild was both a business and a religion. After concluding all things, Lee Yoon asked to them, "So, who's your leader?" One of them said, "It's Choi Shul Sung." After hearing that name, Lee Yoon surprised and remember that the name of statue that is next to his statue. Lee Yoon asked, "That guy told you to come to get the stealth skill?" Then one man said, "Yes, we were just following his instruction," while another man said, "Why are you telling him everything?" "Traitor." Lee Yoon sudden go near to him and tap his hand on his shoulder and crush it. He was screaming in pain. With red glowing eyes, Lee Yoon said, "He is not here to joke around with you guys." Then he said, "Choi Shul Sung, the guild master of General Guild." Lee Yoon said, "Isn't he one of those who went into the final dungeon with him?" The three statue in Moon Square are modeled after the three player who selected as representative of Korea to enter the final dungeon. He's a comrade who went to take down the dungeon with him. Then Lee Yoon realized no, he can't quite call him a comrade. After all, he never met him before. In any case, someone he had for together with is now trying to steal his skill after regressing. That's understandable, it's just human nature. He is not offended at all. He have long known that striving for personal benefit is what drive the world. Then he saw there were many Leakins approaching towards him. He said after some of the Leakins died, new one have spawned. The number of monster in dungeon is always the same, that's mean to have 25 Leakins. New one would respawn at regular time interval to meet that number. Lee Yoon said, "It's perfect timing to respawn because he won't have to get his hands dirty now." Then he grabbed the net and said, "For Choi Shul Sung he has to kill his men," while they were begging for mercy, and then Lee Yoon throw them all into crowd of Leakins. After that again 4 men enter the dungeon. While entering there were head of their comrades in front of them. There are a maximum player limit of 5 and after 4 died, the gate reopened, allowed new player to enter, then Li-Yun cleaned his fist blood while watching them, and bonus point reached 93. Then they all jumps over Li-Yun to capture him with their whip, but again they all captured. Li-Yun said, "Which is the Leakin with the skill stone?" One of them said it's the one with brows, then he is starring them with his red glowing eye and said, "Good," he thinks. This player are different from the first batch, they are answering his question without any hesitation. Then he approached toward the one with the white brows, go near him and crush his head with his hand, and rip Leakin's belly flesh and dig into it and start searching the skill stone. He feel disgusting. He thought, he should train Minsu to do this for him. Then he found it. Purple skill stone, stealth level 1, makes the player's body transparent, that duration of the effect is the proportion to the player's mana. Then one of captured man said, a skill used by hero who enter the final dungeon. One of them, a lady, said, she could have sold that skill stone for an incredible amount of money, or use it herself to enhance her ability as a player, but it still went back to its original owner in the end. Li-Yun thought, he could easily rich if he sold this. Still, there's a reason why he is going to swallow it. From the moment the game started, the greatest power in the world isn't money, but strength. In other words, one's might is the only thing that matter. He want to become the strongest. He have spent his entire life in the orphanage and on the battlefield, which can be said to be the darkest place in the world. He want to has power that far surpasses money. Such a world where that's possible has now come, a world where he can actually have power that transcend everything. He want that world. He will write a new history and he's going to swallow skillstone. He gained bonus point again. Then system window appears that the stealth skill is locked and cannot be used. Unlocked at level 10, Li-Yun surprised and puzzled to see that. He said, he is currently level 6, he need to get 4 more levels to be able to use stealth. This is so annoying. He said even if he is strong, he can't enjoy himself to fullest extent because of this meaningless number, while thinking about increasing his levels. Then he apply bonus point all to strength, and strength reached 289, plus 3, before leaving the dungeon he has to use the stealth skill, because there are over 100 players standing guard outside the gate, waiting to steal his skill from him. Even with his overwhelming strength, taking on 100 player will be too much for him. If there even one monster left in the dungeon would continue to respawn more monster, so he'll keep one alive and hunt those that spawn. 300 strength is a disaster to these level 5 Leakins. Li-Yun start killing them with just a finger flick, so he don't shatter all their bones, and 50 over agility also helping to speed up the process. And then he is killing all Leakins all overnight until he reached level 10, and unlock stealth skill, and on there is 3 bonus points also. Then he uses stealth skill. Li-Yun's body is transparent but clothes are visible. He asked to them how is he supposed to use the skill when it's like that. One of captured man said, when your skill level goes up, your clothes will also become transparent. The higher the level, the more powerful the skill is, the better the class of the skill, the greater the degree to which the skill gets stronger every time it goes up in levels. Now that Li-Yun thinks about it, all of the skills he have possess have their level indicated next to the skill name. Li said, so, his clothes will not become transparent when stealth is level 2, is that it? They all said, yes. Then Li-Yun put off his clothes and activate his stealth skill and become invisible. He thinks, these player have come for stealth skills which was his in his previous life. If they had the ability to, they would have taken his life too. He don't see why he would keep them alive while many Leakins coming towards captured men. They are all begging for mercy. They said, they have told him everything they know. Please spare us. But Li-Yun said, shut it, from outside the dungeon. The gate is open again, they all shouting, that someone died again? Who is going next? And we saw there is a transparent foot appeared from the dungeon while everyone watching dungeon. Li-Yun walking transparent beside them while leaving blood foot trail behind him, no one noticing that. Now Li-Yun approaching toward Minsu and tap his shoulder. Minsu is scared but he understand that it's stealth. Li-Yun said, See that taxi over there? Go a get in it. Then there is a headlines on a paper all about Lee Yoon appearance, Lee Yoon scrolling all this news in his mobile, then Minsu showing him news debates on his mobile about him. Lee asked to Minsu, "What's this?" He said, "They are talking about you." Then one of the man said on a TV live that, for example, just before entering the final dungeon, Lee Yoon raised his middle finger in response to reporters' question. People went crazy for that. The people seemed to love him for how he was unfazed, standing among the most powerful player in the world, confidently doing his own things. One of the guest ladies said, "So, are you saying that everyone watching Lee Yoon simply because of his popularity as a star player?" That man said, "Well, there are many reasons, but that's what he think." Lee Yoon said, "This guy sure knows how to talk." Then that lady said, "That chairman of the Player Skill and Technology Association seemed to have something to say." She asked to tell us what's on his mind. Then that man greet and introduce himself and said, "The topic of discussion for today is supposed to be about player Lee Yoon's future action." Then he asked everyone to say something off topic. Everyone agree. Then he said, "Actually, the moment Lee Yoon appeared at the Leakin dungeon today, the game was over." Everyone shocked to hear this and asked, "What are you talking about?" Lee Yoon also surprised to hear that. The lady said, "Can you explain on that?" One of the man said, "Please refrain from saying things that will cause confusion among the people." Minsu said, "That's the chairman of Player Skill and Technology as Association. He is really influential figure. Anything he said about player or a monster would be written about and reported. That's why everyone is so shocked by what he just said. As all the player have regressed, the status of Player Skill and Technology Association has naturally weakened. They no longer have a monopoly over information like they used to." Then that man said, "They have analyzed the body of Leakins in cooperation with General Guild. All of their body have the same wound on their skulls, all of which were caved in. The bones of Leakins are extremely dense. Statistically, their bones can only be shattered by a level 40 player who has applied all of their bonus point to their strength stat." One of man stand up and said, "A player of his level can break the Leakins bones if they have good equipment. The highest level dungeon is level 14 Blue Monkey Dungeon. If it obtain a powerful drop from there, nothing they drop is strong enough to smash the bones of a Leakins in one blow." Of course he had also liked to believe that Lee Yoon used some kind of item or equipment to take down the Leakins. However, then he present a Leakin wounded head. The panels are scared and said, "What are you doing?" He said, "This is the fact of the matter, a finger flick." Lee Yoon massacred all Leakins with just a flick of his finger. He have studied dungeons and monster for more than decade, but this is his first time seeing wound like this. It's definitely a finger flick about the size of a middle finger. Two of the men panic and said, "What are you even saying? That's ridiculous. What you have just said is only going to bring confusion and frustration to the player. Take responsibility for your outrageous word and resign." Lee Yoon thinks, they all vested interests. Those who refusing him are all people with wealth and power in their hands. They are all people who hold senior positions in the player community and organization related to game. That man said, "The game is over, in this life too." Lee Yoon once again be one of the people who will enter the final dungeon and end the game. Then one of the man happily stand up and said, "Player who are watching this, please do not be shaken. You can be a legend too. No matter what he do, his action are different from what he did in his previous life. As a result, he's constantly gaining bonus points. The only similarity between his past and current self is that they are both strong. Apart from that, they are entirely different people. In any case, the most important thing to him right now is his level. He has realized that no matter how high his stats are, it's pointless if his level is low. He need to level up quickly. He almost couldn't enter the Leakin dungeon and can't activate stealth skill because of low level, so he again enter into Leakin's dungeon to level up. He thinks, as the dungeon have a minimum level requirements, he can't enter if his level is too low, and if he can't enter, it won't be able to obtain skills and equipment. Therefore, he is currently on a very boring and tedious hunting trip, and he start killing Leakins with his finger flick. At this point in time, the quickest way to level up is by killing Leachans. After killing last Leachan, Hwayoon said to Minsu that he is sick of this, let's kill something else. Minsu said, this is the best place for now. Hwayoon asked, what kind of dungeon do we have next? Minsu said, the level 14 Blue Monkey dungeon is also open, but you can't go in because your level is too low, boss. Hwayoon said, are there even any level 14 players now? It's only been 5 days since the game started, Minsu said. He don't think there are any. Hwayoon thinks there should not be any level 14 player at this point. It's physically impossible even if one hunted all day and all night without rest. That means that there aren't any player who can enter the dungeon. Hwayoon says to Minsu that he can hunt the blue monkeys without having to go into the dungeon. Minsu said, what do you mean? Hwayoon said, there is no level 14 player now, so doesn't that mean that blue monkey will come out of the gate? Minsu surprised and said, that's right, as there weren't any level 14 player at this point in our previous lives, those blue monkey caused a lot of trouble. Hwayoon said, he guess some things can't be helped even with regression. Minsu said, the blue monkey are an annoying bunch, not only are they fast, but they're also intelligent, and can learn as they fight. Hwayoon saw his bonus point and think this sure is a lot. He have bonus point equivalent to what others would have to gain 108 levels. At this point where there aren't even any level 14 players, a number like 108 feels unreal. After leaving lots of corpses behind, Hwayoon and Minsu going to exit Leachan dungeon. The next day, they walking on a street. That area is evacuate cause of blue monkey. Hwayoon said, sure is empty. Then Minsu pointed out location of dungeon over there. Minsu said, he have only seen the blue monkeys here on the news myself, and they're really no joke. Perhaps because they are above level 10, they can even use ranged attacks, also they can learn from and mimic human actions. Then they reached that place. Minsu said, that must be the monster, they are playing with cars. Hwayoon said, so, they've already come out of the gates. He asked to Minsu that, what did you say were their characteristics again? They are annoying because of their fast movement and attack speed. Minsu said that's right. Then Hwayoon apply bonus point to his agility and agility reached 578 plus 3 and he run from there very fast toward blue monkey. Minsu was shocked to see that speed and he tried to hide because of his low levels. Hwayoon start killing all the blue monkey, lots of bonus point screen appears around. Then he grab 3 blue monkey with their tails and throw them all into ground. Minsu was shocked and surprised to see that Hwayoon throwing them with grabbing monkeys' tails all over. The blue monkey trying to go back into the dungeon but they can't, of course, just like how player couldn't enter the dungeon if the maximum number of player allowed was met. It seemed that the same rule applied to monster as well. He can see the fear and terror they are feeling in their eyes, but Hwayoon smiled psychopathically and said, where are you going, cuties? While blue monkey running with fear, being able to enter the dungeon that will continue to appear until the end of the game will require him to have a high level. After all, if his level is lower than the monster in the dungeon, he won't be able to enter, and if he can't enter the dungeon, his life as a player will be over. Not only will not be able to get item and skill, but the gap between himself and the other player will just keep widening as well. Then he opened his status window and saw his level is 17 and smiled with happiness while Minsu was shocked and said, you are at level 17? It's only been 6 days since the game began and you are already level 17? Hwayoon exhausted and said, yeah, he is really out of breath. With his 1 point of stamina isn't enough to support his abnormal strength and agility anymore. This wasn't a problem, but after crossing level 15, he had to kill a lot of more to continue leveling. Then he apply his bonus point to stamina and it reached 213. Then again he chasing the blue monkeys while the monkey has throwing anything they found, but Hwayoon again grab the money tail and start spinning round and killing them with that. And at last that's the end of all those that have come outside. Minsu said, everyone was shocked that you killed those Leachan with just a flick of finger. How I wish they could see this insane scene. Then Hwayoon thought, they are underground parking. There are almost no blind spot in the security camera coverage area. Lee regret that it's all on camera. Then they both stand in front of that dungeon. Minsu said, "We need to destroy that gate, boss." Hwayoon said, "Why? We leave it be. Monster with keeps spawning, it will be a convenient farming spot," Minsu said. "Then no monster of a high level will appear on Earth." Blue Monkey are level 14 monster, he is now close to 18, it's not really efficient to farm anymore. Hwayoon asked, "What's that supposed to mean?" Minsu said, "Dungeon need to destroyed for high levels dungeons appear. Did you think million of people would agree to not destroy low level dungeon and just leave them be? Impossible," Hwayoon said. "That's true, human have always been incredibly selfish, he knew that well, so, the more dungeon he clear, the more difficult it will get for the other players, right?" Minsu said, "Well, he suppose so. Now that you have conquered this level 14 gate in just 6 days after the game begin, dungeon with level 15 monster will appear in a few hours, but, in his past life, people only started raiding level 14 gates 29 days after the game commenced." Hwayoon asked, "How did you know that?" Minsu said, "I guess you don't know about this." Then he show his mobile that there is the games, he said, "You've played computer games before, there's also a community in this game where a lot of information is shared." Lee said, "So, is that where you got the information from?" Minsu said, "That's right, player would post information about the dungeon they cleared here, the fastest completion time among them is updated as the time when a dungeon of that level was conquered." He continued that, the Blue Monkey aren't the only level 14 dungeon in the world, green orcs are also level 14, if say, either any one dungeon is conquered, level 15 dungeon will appear. Hwayoon said, "So, since he have just clear a level 14 dungeon for the first time, does that mean that there's a level 15 dungeon somewhere now?" He asked where it is. Minsu said, "It's Gwangju province." Hwayoon asked, "When was the first level 15 dungeon cleared in our previous lives?" Minsu answered 41 days after the game started. Minsu then happily asked to Hwayoon that shall he create an account and upload our clear time. "We have the first to clear level 14 dungeon after all," Hwayoon said. "What's the benefit of doing that?" Minsu said, "This side is acknowledged by the World Player Association, player ranking are assessed here, the site score ranking based on who was the first of conquered which dungeon, you can think of its official ranking of this world, in addition to receiving benefit from their country, players in the top ranking of this site are said to receive VIP-like treatment as well." Hwayoon said, "Let's use Fearless as the username." Minsu immediately registered it, and write a post about clearing level 14 dungeon. Then there's so many comments coming through that unpost. After the game started, building called Gate Shelter were built by the government to minimize casualty as monsters started this destroying homes and slaughtering human. All gate shelters across the country are built in the form of stadium. Ordinary people who did not become player would have to this places as soon as get appear near them. Then there is a girl said to her mom, "When are we going home?" Her mom said, "Just a little longer, sweetie, the player will come to get rid of the monster for us soon." That little girl said, she saw online that they only cleared it 29 days after the game began, that's still 18 more days to go. She wants to go home. Then sudden on a stage a man announces that, the Blue Monkey Gate has disappeared. The Blue Monkey Gate is gone, everyone, pack your bags, it's time to go home. No one believed it and thought it's a prank, then everyone throwing rocks on him, and said, "Get down from there." Then there is a video on screen and everyone seen it that a player defeated Blue Monkey, they asking who is that, is this for real, those monkey are really dead. Then someone said, "Look, it's a new account." They all talking about Fearless account, that there's no such ID in our past life. They both walking on street. Minsu said, "The level 15th dungeon was cleared in 41 days after the game started in our previous life." Hwayoon said, "Was it a gate in Korea?" Minsu said, "No, it was a level 15 dungeon in Japan, with the Crimson Eye Horse. There was a level 15 gate in Korea too, but no one was strong enough to clear it." Hwayoon said, "So, What's the monster in the dungeon we are going to? Minsu said, it's the level 15 giant bear. You won't have a problem with monster below the level 20 after that between the times it takes to clear that. Minsu said, isn't it a little too much to walk all 300 kilometers though? Leach said just walk because every step he is gaining bonus points. He said, walking means making a choice with every step. Minsu said, so, boss, about the changing the future things, Lee asked, what about it? Minsu with bright eye said that, let's say boss dropped a pen, and someone else picked that up, does that act of dropping the pen mean that you've changed the future? Leach said that's possible. Minsu again said, so is that way you're walking? The bugs that have moved to avoid your feet, and the weeds that you've stepped on, all of that happened because you chose to walk, so, the act of walking itself is you changing the future. Then sudden a truck from there behind coming, he brake it. That truck driver said, this road is for vehicles you know, while Minsu is scratching his head and said, please just go, because of Leach, the dungeon are opening at a different pace than in his previous life. This fact alone allow him to widen the gap between himself and the other player. The player who regressed with the memory of their previous life are becoming useless as the dungeon open at a different rate. Even though he didn't regress, he have widening in the gap between him and the other player significantly. Then he reached level 15 dungeon, a level 20 monster. That's not all, he have to unlock the level 20 dungeon as soon as possible. He heard that he carried a weapon that can only be used by player about level 20 in his past life. That mean that the weapon is an item drop from a level 20 monster. He have to hustle. Then in front of Leach there's a giant bear roaring. Leach said, well, he guessed this is it. Monster above level 20 start using skills, then that bear punch him while he defending himself with his armor and back off. Then 3 giant bear approaching to him. Leach said, this is one tough guy. Then the bear again punch the ground while Leach dodging it and jump over bear hand and grab his neck with his armored arms and crushed it. That bear fall to the ground. Standing on bear he said, because this guy only come one at a time, it's probably going to take a while to kill them all, while he leveled up and bonus point is continuous coming, then 3 bear attack at a time. And scene changed after clearing the level 15 dungeon. On the game there are many player who commenting on the 15 level cleared dungeon, everyone praising him while someone worry about level 16 dungeon. Then sudden a message pop up on a screen. Minsu surprise. Leach asked, what this? Minsu said, someone cleared level 16 dungeon, he is Poison Choi Shul Sung. Leach smile and said, so, that guy is already level 16. Minsu said, he cleared the level 16 dungeon so quickly that it's like he was waiting for the level 15 one to be cleared. Leach said, he must have got an important skill from that dungeon in his past life. Lee smirks and said, someone decent has appeared. Interesting. Choi Shul Sung was a player nicknamed the Poison King in the past. He was the guild master of the #1 guild in Korea, General Guild. True to his reputation, he's showing his skills now. He tried to steal his stealth skill. He need to move faster. Then he asked to Minsu, what was his main weapon in his past life? Minsu said, he don't know the name of the weapon but it's a dagger, a black dagger. Minsu said, yes, there was a joke that if you combine all the blood of the monster spilled on Leach dagger, the earth would probably submerge in blood, while Leach said, why are you guys so childish? Minsu said, it's level 20 item, but there's only one level 20 monster in Korea and that's the golden leopard. It's a formidable beast. Leach said, how many time do he have to tell you that that's all meaningless when it come to him? Minsu agree with that. Then 2 message appears that level 17 and 18 dungeon is cleared. Leach said, the level 20 dungeon appear right after the level 19 dungeon is cleared, right? Where is it? Minsu said, according to the information of the game, the level 19 dungeon is near Gangnam Station and the level 20 is at Yeoldong Park. Leach said, that will be about 30 minutes if there's no traffic. Minsu said, it's a relief that that level 20 dungeon will be in park where there aren't many people. Leach smiled and said, even if there are a lot of people, no one can go in. They can all see me getting his weapon again. Then he open his status window and Lee's level is 21 and he apply his 744 bonus point to strength and his strength reached 1033, and then a notification appear a player's strength stat has exceeded 1000 for the first time. You have gained a new achievement, the King of Strength. You have received the Petrify skill level 1. It petrify opponent's body for 3 seconds. The duration of effect is in proportion to the player's strength. Hwayoon wonder what it is, then he used on Minsu. Minsu said, "Boss." Hwayoon asked, "You really can't move?" Minsu said, "No, that's not it. Was that the petrify skill? Is your strength stat more than 1000? Lee said, "You are always so shocked every time he do something." Minsu said, "Of course he is, boss. You just got the skill that the Emperor, Young Song-gui had." Hwayoon said, "The Emperor?" Then Minsu open his mobile and show him, "That's a long list of record from our previous life with the ID Chinese king over and over again." He said, "Young So-gui is the person behind the ID Chinese king nicknamed the Emperor. He was a legendary player who united all the player in China. The game has a separated section with all record of dungeon clears in our previous life, and the ID Chinese king is the one who set a large portion of them. Learned that he was the first one to play all those dungeon. He is the one who cleared more dungeon than anyone. So, the skill Hwayoon got was a skill this guy's had in the past." Hwayoon said, "There must be items and weapon he used in the dungeon he cleared in the past." Minsu was very excited about Hwayoon 1000 plus strength. Hwayoon said, "Go to where the level 20 dungeon will appears, keep me posted on who's there. He'll be there as soon as he clear the level 19 dungeon." Then they part ways. Minsu said, "He'll contact you if anything unusual." Then there is Crimson-Eyed Mole level 19. Hwayoon thinks, he need to kill these guys to open a level 20 Golden Leopard Gate. If someone else on this planet cleared a level 19 dungeon, the level 20 gate will automatically open. He could have just wait in front of the gate, but it doesn't look like there are currently any player in the world who can clear a level 19 dungeon, and that is why he is going through the troublesome process of defeating this Crimson-Eyed Mole. Then Hwayoon reached the dungeon where army asked for ID. Hwayoon thinks, look like they're trying to evacuate everyone here. He said he don't have any ID with him. Then there is some kind of sound coming from down there, and a monster coming from ground and jumps over them. All soldier are open fire on him, and one of them said to Hwayoon that, "Please leave. It's dangerous." While Hwayoon said, "Your gun won't work on them," then soldier asked, "Are you a player?" He said, "Yes," and then sudden a Crimson-Eyed Mole jumps over them. Hwayoon petrify him, the mole freeze and fall on the ground, while soldier are surprised. Then Hwayoon grab mole with his neck with his armor hand and crush to kill him, gained a bonus point. Then soldier allow him to go enter, and good luck. Then Hwayoon starting to enter the dungeon. Hwayoon thinks, compared to other monster that have a brutish and aggressive nature, these guys are rather cunning. There are total 15 Crimson-Eyed Mole in this dungeon. When are they coming out? Hwayoon thinks, they all burrowed underground and it doesn't seem like they have any thought of coming back out. It will take too much time to take them one by one. Then Lee open inventory and bring out fur of a blue monkey. When it burned its fumes harmful. Minsu mentioned smoke from burning that fur. It lure the monster one place, so he had kept some in his inventory. There are so many holes in ground. The player must have hard time dealing with these guys in their past life. Then sudden a mole attacked him, which he easily blocked that attack with his hand and grab his neck and crush it. After that he throw the monkey fur in the holes and burned it. There is smoke coming from every hole and Crimson-Eyed Mole die in hole while Hwayoon counting their number and bonus screen pop-ups all around. After all 15 mole died, Hwayoon leveled up. Screen appears the gate will be destroyed. Time remaining 3 minutes. Then on the phone Minsu said, he think it's going to be annoying for you here, boss. Lee said, why? Minsu said, there's hordes of reporters out here. Hwayoon said, get rid of them, he will be there soon. Minsu said, this is somewhat fishy, why didn't the general guild people come here? Hwayoon said, perhaps they know that if they come, they'll meet a bloody end. After completing Crimson-Eyed Mole dungeon in 30 minutes he's leaving and reached Yuldong Park. Lee Yoon on the phone. He said. He told you to get rid of them, while Minsu said. He's sorry, boss, they won't listen to him. Lee Yoon said. Forget it, he'll settle it once and for all. Then every reporter saw him. One of the reporter asked, there are many complaints from players around the world, what are your thoughts on that? Another asked, do you believe in your any responsibility for that? While someone asking for autograph and taking picture, Lee Yoon thinks, this is utter chaos, it's so noisy and annoying. Having lived on battlefield where bombs and bullets are rampant during his life as a machinery, he have come to appreciate silence, so, he is going to use this opportunity to make sure that these reporters and news anchors won't even think of coming near him again. He said, that's their fault for being weak. Tell them to work harder, one of the reported asked, you really mean that? Lee said, of course, being weak isn't a sin, but those who only know to blame others can go to hell. Then one of the reporters said, Boward, who went to the final dungeon as a representative of Canada in our previous life, said that Lee Yoon is an overrated player who is only strong now, but will become the weakest player among the high-level player in the later stage of the game. What are your thoughts on that? Lee Yoon asked which broadcasting station has the highest rating. Then two reporters raised their hand. He said, what's that Canadian guy name again? Then one of the reporters said it's Boward. Then there is a flashlight from everywhere and he turned and showed his middle finger and said, here's to Boward. After that Lee Yoon entered Golden Leopard dungeon. 2-player needed to hunt 7 Golden Leopard. The B+ difficulty level is not an easy one. Lee Yoon standing in front of 3 Golden Leopard and thinking about that. A dungeon difficult level also served as an indicator of the rarity level of item obtainable in that dungeon. Then Lee Yoon prepare his punch and thinks, the B+ difficulty level meant that there was the possibility of obtaining top tier rare item. Then he slammed one of the Golden Leopard with his punch, and he roared very loudly and activate a skill that stunned Lee Yoon. He was prepared for this. Upon hearing the roar of a Golden Leopard, he won't be able to use skill for a period of time. Then 2 Golden Leopard again roared. Lee Yoon thinks, he has to use a different hunting method compared to before. Then he said, they're not going to let me use his skill. Then 1 Golden Leopard is running towards him very fast and jumps over him, but Lee Yoon dodged it and their ground cracked and crumbled with red glowing light. Lee Yoon activates stealth skill and thinks, if only he could use armor, it those claws and teeth so much as touch him, there will be blood. Golden Leopard were shocked to can't see Lee Yoon. Then suddenly Yoon attack one of the Golden Leopard and thinks, with armor, he could have blocked them with his arm, then killed them off one by one, but he can't do that now. He killed one of the Golden Leopard while other Golden Leopard very angry and they all roared at him, while Lee Yoon very arrogantly said, then come, all Golden Leopard running towards him, and then Lee Yoon grab one of Leopard and broke its neck and kill him, and think, so, grappling is the only answer. Then 1 Golden Leopard jumps over him while Lee Yoon said, let's end this. And then he killed all of them and holding one of the Golden Leopard with his tail. Then a message appeared that he has defeated level 20 Golden Leopard, reward received. Lee Yoon thinks how to get reward. Then he opened his inventory and there was a new item. It's Dagger of Destruction. Holding the dagger with smile, Lee Yoon said, now it's look nice. This is a strange dagger that doesn't have any stats, not even attack power. Its item description is in purple. He finally got his hand on the weapon he used in his previous life. Then Lee Yoon thinks something and activate armor skill. The dagger emitting red lights aura. It's resonating with armor skill very well. Then again he activates stealth. The dagger also compatible with stealth skill as well. Now, Lee Yoon understand that, when he use a skill, this dagger is also imbued with the same power. In other words, as he grows stronger, the dagger would grow stronger as well. Then he exit the dungeon and the reporter shouted his name and all of them said, there are rumors that you are the user behind the ID Fearless in the game, is that true? There are all sorts of questions, while Lee Yoon saw Minsu, who already standing folding his hand as sorry, state that he can't do that much help to get rid of the reporter, while Lee Yoon searching general guild member. he wondered there should be many player filled with vain hopes of targeting his items and skill. Then a reporter said, "When will you obtain the unique skill, Eye of God?" Reporter waiting for response, but as we know Hwayoon don't know about it anything's about Eye of God skill. Minsu was also want to know with curious eyes. Then the reporter asked many question about his all obtained skills. "Tell us your current level and stats." Hwayoon said, "Level 24, Strength 1033, all the reporters are silent and in shocked. Then Hwayoon start going and said, he heard that he has been exempted from the law, if anyone come to bother him like this again, he will end with threatening sigh he said that kill you. The next day, the world was once again chaos, all the papers headlines filled with Hwayoon's news. Then Minsu start briefing about Eye of God that, he is not exactly sure if that's the actual name of the skill, it's a skill you had in your previous life. Hwayoon asked, "What does it do?" Minsu with very happy expression said, "It allows you to see the opponent's stats and inventory window." Hwayoon thinks, Eye of God, it's a skill he had in his previous life. Minsu said, "It's a unique skill, not only is only one in the entire world, but it also has crazy upgrades as it levels up. As you were the only one who had the skill, only you would know its true power. The strength of unique skills lies not only in fact that only one of each in the world, but also in the fact that it demonstrates immense power as the skill level increase. The leveling up of a unique skill is often referred to as a second awakening," Minsu said. "However, according to speculation, when the Eye of God reaches level 2, you'll be able to detect everything, such as the slight tremor of the opponent's pupils or their heart rate. Moreover, considering how you used the dagger in your previous life to target only the weaknesses of your opponents, the Eye of God might be even more incredible than we know." Hwayoon asked, "Where is it?" Minsu said, "He don't know either, but we should be able to find out into the game. While the probability is high, it may not be entirely accurate. It's a website that all the record of cleared dungeon that have, it also have record on the dungeon he cleared in his past life as well." Hwayoon says, "There are too many, how can he know which one? He don't have time to revisit all dungeon, the player have all regressed, there will be differently be player who are aiming for the Eye of God. And it wouldn't just be one or two individual, it could even range from large guild to low level players." Minsu said, "Boss, you must be well aware by now that you were one of the most powerful player in your past life, right?" "It's been talked about quite a lot," Lee asked. "What?" Minsu said, "The rumor that is being circulated among player is actual true, Project Hwayoon that is, they would surely have records of the player who participated in the final dungeon." Hwayoon said, "Do you mean they recorded everything because they knew the regression was going to happen?" "If they knew they were going to regress, it would be wise to meticulously record the information of the heroes who enter the final dungeon. Such record would be great help for them to steal the skill and item of those heroes. However, the idea of the knowing about the regression just doesn't make sense," Minsu said. "They didn't make those record because they knew they would regress, rather, it's for the sake of murder." Hwayoon smirked and said, "Murder?" While Minsu said, "The major guild recorded everything about the famous player, including when, where, and how they obtained their item and skills," Lee said, "What do these record have to do with murder?" Minsu said, "Of course it's related. Take the time when General Guild try to steal your stealth skill for example, using the information that you possess the armor skill, they prepared whips and nets. Now that you have acquired stealth, they will prepare a new strategy to kill you next time. Seeing that they weren't able to kill you in the end, they have probability recorded everything about you up to the last moment when you enter the final dungeon. They were always waiting for an opportunity, those pieces of paper with their meticulous records about his life, or now a treasure map, that will lead them to the item and skills he had in his past life. Like other players, he belonged to a guild in his previous life, and our guild also recorded information about the famous players. In this world item and skill are everything, so, it because of nature to steal the good thing that other player had." Hwayoon asked, "But how do you do it? How do you know where they acquired their skills?" Minsu said, "We track all the gates they cleared, So then, if they didn't have a certain skill in Gate 1 but used it at Gate 2, we can infer that they obtained the skill in Gate 1, Hwayoon said. What this means is that players were willing to kill each other for items and skills, and to facilitate that, they tracked and recorded the other players' every moment and action, Hwayoon said. He liked that. General Guild. It's a major guild that has never lost its position as the top guild in South Korea. The Poison King, who was also chosen to enter the final dungeon in our previous life, is the leader of the guild. Firstly, being a large guild, they would possess tremendous information gathering capability. Secondly, they attempted to steal his stealth skill. Them knowing the location of the stealth skill stone means it is highly likely that they are also aware of the location of other items and skills he possessed, Hwayoon said. He think he know why there weren't any player at the Golden Leopard dungeon. They might preparing for the more valuable skill, the Eye of God. As regressors they probably don't have much interest in items, unless it's a legendary item, of course, Minsu said. They may have brought with them the knowledge and technology of the future to make the items they want with material from the dungeon. There were numerous company dedicated to crafting players' items in our previous life, Hwayoon said. In his opinion, there are two reasons why not only General Guild, but the other players also did not show up at the Golden Leopard Gate. Minsu asked, what are they? Hwayoon said, it's more efficient for them to kill me after he obtain other skills and items, instead of personally going around to get them, and then killing me. All items and skills are there, of course, that's assuming that he do end up getting killed by them, Minsu said, but that impossible, Hwayoon said. Right, so, the most possible reason they give up on the dagger of destruction is, he has put the fear in them, so, now they have no intention of messing with him. Then in the game there is a message appear that 21 level dungeon successfully clear by Poison Choi, Hwayoon said. He is working hard. While in chat group there is both side cheering. In the beginning, there were only other player from other countries such as a US and China, but from around level 20 or so, there were only Hwayoon and Choi Shul-sung names, Lee said. However, that doesn't change much. He open his status window and his level is 25. Then he apply all bonus point to concentration that reached 733. With smirk on face he said, there's no one that can be king yet, right? He have learned that having high concentration will allow him to fully utilize his stats, evade monster attacks more efficiently, and easily identify their weaknesses. Also, particularly useful in situation where he can't use his skills. Minsu asked, don't you need more mana? Hwayoon said, he haven't encountered a shortage of man yet. Minsu with bright eyes said, that's true, you have using your skill efficiently. The mana stat determine one's ability to draw and use mana that's flowing in nature. He have never run out of mana before. That's probably because he have been using his ability strategically, Hwayoon said. Alright then, now he need to level up his stealth skill, Minsu said. Can't you just charge in and make a clean sweep? Lee said, there's no need to cause a commotion. When he has a good skill like stealth, he know well from experience that compared to torturing prisoner, spying and infiltration are a lot more effective when it come to gaining information. With smug smile on face he said, on the day his stealth become level 2, he is going the General Guild headquarter. Then they both go to shopping clothes and accessories. After that then Hwayoon wear some clothes and approach to street, Hwayoon said. Anyway, how do the level up his stealth skill? Minsu said, the key to leveling of a skill is proficiency. Hwayoon asked, so, what exactly is proficiency? Minsu said, it's exactly what it sound like, it refers to the player's understanding and utilization of a skill, Lee said. So, if he keep using a skill, it will just automatically leveled up. Minsu said, there's a point system in place for leveling skill too. Proficiency point, when a skill proficiency increases, there will be a system message to notify that the proficiency has increased. For example, if a player proficiency increase after performing a certain action, that action itself become a proficiency point, Hwayoon said. Since the others have all regressed, they would know well which action will increase their proficiency, so, where do he start? Then they go to Goblin and Orc dungeon for when he want to test something new. Goblins are considered the weakest monster in the game, therefore, many of these gates are intentionally left unclear for the growth of novice player. These monster can do no harm to him, so that is why he is here. Then a orc roar to him. Leach thinks, what kind of action will please the person who created this game? While activating his stealth skill and go near orc while orc was searching him after go there he activate his armor skill and then armor skill activate but stealth skill deactivate. So, can't use both at the same time. Now he got that, it would be a little too overpowered. Then he go with stealth skill and open his inventory, bring out his dagger and attack from behind the orc. That orc fell down on ground and with that his proficiency of stealth has increased. Then he jump over orc and slice him with that his stealth skill leveled up and the future bonus point gain too. Now he level up his stealth skill. He asked where's the general guild's HQ. Minsu said, it's in Gangnam district. With smile Leach said, they must have a lot of money. Then we saw a large building that is general guild headquarter. There are two people approaching to door while behind there is Leach in his stealth position is going with them. They reached the entrance. The player said, bro, we are getting our fingers burnt because of that Leach bastard. Another player said, he is the one saving the world, we just have to pretend to do something while sucking up money. Then gatekeeper greet them, good morning. They swipe the card and open the gate. With them Leach also entered. Then one of the player noticed something and turned to gatekeeper. He asked, is there any problem sir? That player said, no, never mind, it's fine. Leach thought, that was close, now let's see where should he go. Then an announcement happened that, to all the executive present in the building, the morning meeting will happen 9:30, everyone must attend. Leach said, well, now he know where to go. Then in assembly meeting on the stage one man announced that the meeting will now start. Leach stand aside a wall and thinks, there are so many people in this room, he'll probably seeing them in the future, so, he had better remember their faces. Then there is a ranked players on the table. One of the players said, the master is absent today as he is taking the level 23 dungeon. Other player said, it must be tiring, there's no other player who can support him. Then there be ranked player talking about, it's just around the corner, the day when our master will obtain the eye of God. Leach listening them carefully. Then two player talking about Leach that they were discussing every meeting that Leach. The vice guild master said, if we can't even figure out where he is, how can we expect to catch him? While Leach think that he's right here, one player said, that they already lost stealth skill and the dagger, what's going to happen if we also lose the eye of God to him? On the stage announcer said, please calm down everyone. Then one man gritted his teeth and said, you fool, that guy has become much stronger than his previous life, what the hell did he do? How did he become a powerful? Without knowing any of that, how are we going to catch him? Then he bring out paper and said, look at this, you idiot, does a strength of 1033 even make sense? Then vice guild master said, there is no evidence that story are true, he must have planned for this, he want to scare off the players who are targeting him. Then announcer arranging some papers and said, here are the records of everything Leach did in his previous life. Leach obtained the Eye of God at the level 34 Black Ogre dungeon on April 17th in his previous life. While Leach listening surprisingly, he said further, that 4 players were killed by Leach on this occasion. Please raise your hands. Then 4 people they all introduced himself. Leach thinks, these people died by his hand. Then a lady said, the ranked Black Ogre dungeon was guaranteed to have at least a rare skill, so our masters sent us together as a team. At that time, Leach was not such a famous player, so we just ignore him. To be exact, we said 2 words to him piss off and that's when it began. That guy is a madman, he is still get the shivers when he think back to that day. The lady said, that because we were there, we have a perfect understanding, and we know that the unique skill Eye of God will appear there. It's all due to our effort that our general guild has all the information about that place. We have also added more details after the regression. Then Li Yun reached behind that man holding papers and saw the location of the gate, all information there. He smiled while gaining a bonus point to changing the future. Then Vice Guild Master said, "So what do you want?" That lady said, "Please give us a chance. In this life we will take Li Yun's life and bring back the Eye of God." Vice Guild Master asked, "Do you have a plan?" That lady said, "We intend to administer SA2 on the Black Ogres." Then one of the men shocked and said, "Isn't that a drug banned by the World Player Association? Are you kidding me? Are you trying to destroy the guild?" That lady said, "If we don't use SA2, there is no other way to prevent Li Yun from getting the Eye of God. We will make the Black Ogres kill Li Yun, we will assist the Master and return with the Eye of God." Then Li Yun sends something on phone and think, do they want to die again? On other side Minsu find the message that, go find out what SA2 is. There is no end to a human's imagination. Even when monster attempted to ravage the world, humans continued to research monster materials and the pursuit of creating things that could assist humanity. The skin and organs of monster were rare items not previously available on Earth. These items could be harder than iron yet still be light. Fuel could be produce that was better than coal. Some item would be emblazoned with meticulous design. All of these items were used to develop technology for mankind, though not all the technology was developed for the benefit of mankind. One such example would be SA2. Then Minsu asked, "Where did you hear that, boss? It's very dangerous drug that was banned by the Player Association." Then Li Yun asks, "How do you use it?" Then Minsu said, "It amplifies the ability of monsters. They experimented on a goblin that was given that drug, and it took down a level 20 golden leopard." Li thinks, interesting. Li Yun asked, "What is the used for? Why was there any need to make monsters stronger?" Minsu answer, "It's a military weapon. They release that drug into enemy country to make the monster destroy that country." Li Yun thinks, that's one effective drug. Then he heard their plan that, the effect of drug lasts 24 hours, on the day Li Yun comes to gate, we will administer drug into the Black Ogres beforehand, and the Black Ogres will be as strong as level 100 monster. Once Li Yun died, we will steal all his skills and items. That's the plan, Vice Guild Master said. Okay, but everyone here needs to keep quiet about this. Our guild will be done for if people find out we used that banned drug. Then Li Yun saw system message during the meeting that stealth will soon deactivate from lack of mana. Li Yun thinks he had applied more bonus point to mana before entering, but message still popped up again. The screen shows mana 98 and bonus point 243. He applied to mana. Mana reached 342. That lady noticed and said, the flow of mana just suddenly changed. Did anyone just use a skill or apply bonus point to their mana? One player said, "What do you mean? Why would someone use a skill during the meeting?" While they discussing, Li Yun little nervous about that. Then one player opened the door and said, "Master have arrived, everyone stand up there." And that man said, "You must have sense master's mana because it's so powerful. The flow mana must have changed because he was walking toward us." The lady player said, "But flow is too strong for that, even for master." Vice Guild Master angrily said, "Enough." That lady said, "Yes sir." Then Guild Master approaching towards them, he said, "It's good to see that everyone's here." Li Yun thinks, the air turned cold once he arrived. He's indeed strong. Poison King Choi Shul Sung said, "There's no need to act frantically, let's take it easy." Vice Guild Master asked about using drug. He said, "Isn't that the only way to kill Li Yun?" Though him having the 1033 strength stat doesn't make sense, Choi put his hand on his chin and said, "But Li Yun isn't the type to lie." Then there a drop of sweat on his face. He said further, "Although 1033 is indeed an impossible number at this stage," he said, "everyone head out for a moment, then everyone going for another place," while Li Yun cross Choi Shul Sung and thinks, "See you at the Black Ogre dungeon." There is no reason to focus on Choi Shul Sung for now. Those papers are what matters more. Those records content important information about his past skills and items. Then he chasing that man who holding the papers. then he come record room, scan his eyes as a password, he open the record room while Lee Yoon thinks, because of his 700 concentration stats, it wasn't hard to silence of his footwork, then they enter the room and Lee Yoon said, "Oh, it's only the two of us here." That man flip immediately, then we saw Lee lit the lighter while holding Lee Yoon's project. He said, "This is seriously too thick." That man sitting on ground while bind his hand back and tape on mouth, then system massage pop up that blue monkey's fur emits very harmful fumes when burned, be careful as you may die from it. Lee Yoon flipped the page and said, "They wrote the events like a movie script, there also details information of the player he killed there, so this is how their stat would be looked, it's a little sad," he thinks, "there's a list of items and skills along with the monster they come from, this is great." Then he read Lee Yoon's past and future, that was Lee Yoon's body mysteriously changed, specifically after Lee Yoon had cleared the level 245 dungeon, his darkened body changed into a blurry figure and destroyed anything he passed by. It's a shame that this is all words can describe, it was definitely a legendary grade skill, writer wrote that, he has not seen any other skill that had such power. Players referred to that form as Lee Yoon's shadow and earned him the nickname Shadow of Death. Since we reset, the mysterious legendary grade skill should now go to the General Guild's master, Choi Shul Sung, and then Lee Yoon take the last paragraph photo on the record regarding Lee Yoon's past and future. Lee Yoon said, "This is probably a copy, where's the original?" Then he throw his punches and start destroying the supercomputer, and there is emergency water sprinkle on. All round he destroy all the records there, and he change the future and bonus point coming all the way, he think, after he destroyed the supercomputer that contained all of the data for the General Guild, system message continued to pop up before him, the number of bonus point he received showed just how much the General Guild had affected the world, it seemed he has affected the future. That much just by destroying the archive. Then he opened his status window that shows level 25, his bonus point reached 1021, Lee Yoon and Minsu stand in a cave, he thinks, after his trip to the General Guild, he was greeted with the unbelievable amount of bonus point that have never received before, now getting stronger was the most important, then he apply bonus point to strength, that reached 2054, he said. "We don't know how strong the drug will make the monsters," Minsu said, "even 2000 strength," Lee Yoon said. "So how much did you learn about drug?" Minsu said, "About that he found more information other than what he already sent to you. Humans sure are terrifying, this drug was originally developed for the skills and items," Lee Yoon asked, "What does the drug have to do with skills and items?" Minsu said, "The humans thought that the dungeon's difficulty would automatically increase if the monster becomes stronger, and they actually tried to mess with the game system," Lee Yoon said. "So because the dungeon drops better stuff when the difficulty higher," Minsu said. "Exactly, however, the game system didn't respond based on the changes from the drug uses," Lee Yoon said. "That's a pain, they would administer drug on black ogres, how strong will they become?" Minsu saw a goblin and said, "We could test it out," then he throw the drug needle on goblin that hit the goblin leg and inject that drug. Then that goblin growling very loudly and angrily and run towards them, and he sudden reached Minsu to punch, then Lee Yoon grab his head and said, "It is pretty fast now," and he crush its head. There are zombies level 27 golden tooth zombie, Lee Yoon holding his breath because of their rotten smell is coming through, Lee Yoon thinks, this rotten smell is making it hard to focus, then one zombie attack him, he does it and think, not to mention, their attack speed is similar to the blue monkeys, with iron jaw and teeth that could break anything, along with that level and speed, and then he punched zombie's head, with impact his eyeball is coming out, and gaining a bonus point, Lee Yoon think, breaking their skulls and destroying their organs didn't work on them, then he open his inventory and think, he need to behead them in order to stop them. And he activate his stealth again, and then he start beheading all the zombies and then said, "This give you no experience," then open his status window and he reached level 28, he said this is nice and all, but, then a zombie attack from behind that he cut him and said, "Last one," then a system message appears, all the monster of dungeon have died, the gate will close, and bonus point +1 added, then he come out, then again a system message appearing and said, be aware that your action are greatly altering the future. And he said what? He also gained the proficiency point, then that message again warns him, Lee Yoon can't understand it, what exactly is it trying to say?